Day 138. I'm going to go back to a topic that I covered. I'm going to talk really similarly to this, but a topic that I covered all the way back on day 1. Because we're 138 days into this, and I think it's really important to revisit this topic from time to time. The book of Zechariah, chapter 4, verse 10 says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." Again, I'm going to read that one more time. "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." God's not waiting for the perfect finish. He's not standing by impatiently for the masterpiece. God celebrates the start. I believe that God rejoices over our small, uncertain, fragile beginnings. And the story that I always relate this to is, think about a baby's first steps. Hang with me for this analogy. Think about a baby's first steps. Have we ever seen, and I'm sure we have, a parent or a grandparent or a whole family even light up and celebrate when a little one takes their wobbly first steps? And objectively speaking, it's not that impressive. Like, the baby's not running marathons. They're stumbling, they're shaking, they're falling after a step or two. And yet, no one's criticizing them. Certainly no one's saying like, wow, that wasn't very smooth, or that wasn't a world record. Instead, people are shouting, they're clapping, there's laughter, there's tears. And why is that? It's because they're not cheering about how perfect the steps are. They're cheering because it's a beautiful beginning. And God absolutely looks at us the same way. Like when you take that first tiny step toward the dream in your heart that God put in your heart, when you start that small act of obedience, when you move forward even with trembling hands and uncertain hearts, like God doesn't stand back and judge our wobble amidst these decisions and these beginnings that we're trying to create for ourselves to live for Him. He doesn't stand back and judge that. I believe that God leans in. I believe He delights to see the work begin in us. And similarly to this, there's a quote that I strive to live by, and it's simply this: the best way to get ahead is to get started. Because that's true. So many of us, and me in previous seasons of my life, have tried to wait for the perfect moment or the perfect plan, and you create all these excuses and you kick the can down the road because we're waiting for this perfect moment to make a move. But I've learned that faith isn't about perfection. It's about movement, and it's about trust. It's about putting one foot in front of the other and trusting that God rejoices in the beginning, even if it's small and even if it's messy. Because when God gave this word to Zechariah in Zechariah 4, verse 10, it was to people who were rebuilding a temple. And the foundation was small, the resources were few, the opposition was fierce. But God said, don't you dare despise in these small beginnings. Because the small thing you see today is the beginning of something great in His plan. And I think some of us have a dream that God's placed in our heart. Maybe we've been kicking that can down the road. Maybe we think it's tiny. Maybe we think it's insignificant. And if you feel like your efforts are too wobbly or too consistent or too unimpressive, like, we got to lean on Him. Because I can tell you that if we are truly following God's plan in our life, I guarantee you that God's rejoicing. And it's not because we've arrived, and it's not because we're perfect, but it's because we've dared to begin. So with that in mind, I think the question that we have to ask ourselves is like, what is our next step? Even if you're in a mess in life right now, or maybe things are going really well, there's always ways that we can try to be more like Jesus. There's always ways that we can improve for the people around us, to lead the people around us, to love the people around us. So what is our next step in life? And it might be different for everyone. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. It just has to be a step. Because when we start, heaven celebrates. And when we start, momentum begins in this life. And when we start, God meets us with his grace and his power. So just remember as I close, the beauty is not in the perfection of the step. The beauty is in the courage to take it. And that's day 138.